Hello and welcome back to another installment of Poke Fodder. So apparently you guys found my pronunciations rather humorous, and I do appreciate all of the attempts to show me the proper way to say a lot of these names. Some very helpful things. A couple people even sent me YouTube clips of people who just pronounce Pokemon names, so that's pretty funny. And I got a kick out of that. And it really cracks me up how even within you guys, some of you say, well, it's lion or it's leon. And there's different ways to pronounce even amongst the Pokemon gurus. Very interesting. A poor guy who didn't grow up playing Pokemon has no chance in this world of pronouncing the names correctly, but I will continue to try. And I do appreciate the help. And the thing that I noticed, and like I said, yesterday, all this was fresh. All this was new. I was recording in the morning, my time, and did not have a lot of time to evaluate everything that was in this booster. I touched on the main points, the EXs, because that's what most people care about right off the bat is, what are the EXs? What are the EXs? So I wanted to touch on them. After having a chance to dive into some of the other Pokemon, there are some very, very serviceable rares and uncommons in this booster, where typically maybe the rares and uncommons weren't necessarily viable. I think there may be a few on here with this newest release that are viable. Now, with all that being said, because of this new booster, and I think it's because of this new booster, but I faced more Deoxys decks yesterday than I've probably faced in any one single day since they were released. Let that sink in for a second. I've already, even today while doing my booster, my lock booster, I faced a full Dio deck. And when I say full Dio deck, I don't mean 6 Dios. I mean 5 Dios and 1 something else. Typically a Mew or a Shuppet. I think today was a Moltres. But last night I played 4 straight or 5 straight games against Deoxys decks. That makes me sad because we came a really long way from where we were with the Deoxys decks running everything with the Tropical Plate, with the Dark Energy Plate, and then this booster comes out, and the 3 Pokemon that you see featured here, and in fact, probably all of them, but for sure, this homeboy here, Terrakion and Cobalion, they're very, very weak to the Deoxys. And I'm wondering if we've reached a point where no matter what, you have to run a deck that counters Deoxys, because here these great new Pokemon have come out, but these 2 in particular, this Noivern, he's a flying type, so he's covered by the Tropical Energy Plate, so I'm not so much talking about him. But these other 2, one is steel fighting and the other is, I don't remember fighting, rock fighting. There's nothing, these 2 are extremely weak to Deoxys. And so as we keep coming out with new Pokemon, unfortunately I think what has happened is everything that comes out is going to have to have a counter to the Deoxys decks, or the Deoxys decks are going to make a reappearance. And that makes me sad that one deck is so incredibly strong that every other deck has to be built around countering them in order for them to be viable. Now, this could just be a knee-jerk reaction, but I played a lot of games yesterday. I was trying to figure out if any of these Pokemon fit into the deck that I was running in League. And, you know, when I was putting together some creative decks and some interesting decks, and then I'm constantly going up against Deoxys, I'm like, okay, well, back to page 2, where I've got to have something in here that will counter the Deoxys. And we'd come so far. So it was very disheartening for me yesterday playing the game. Not to be a Debbie Downer, we're going to progress and move on and look at some of these rares and a couple of uncommons. So we have Ninjask. This Pokemon can MP move through Pokemon that have weight. That doesn't seem like that big of a deal. It could be pretty useful when compared with Noivern, who gives the birds weight 3 if he lands Hurricane. Or it lands Hurricane, I guess. I shouldn't be sexist. If this Pokemon has evolved, this Pokemon on your bench gains 1 MP, so it becomes, like I mentioned yesterday, it becomes like Speed Deoxys with the 4 MP. At level 5, it has no miss. And I messed around with Nincada, I believe is the name of this little monster here. And Nincada is really easy to evolve, so we will touch on him as well. In fact, let me finish here and then we'll go. The 4 miss becomes no miss at level 5, 12 dodge segments, Night/40. If this Pokemon is not knocked out, you may switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. That's really nice late game. And the synergy with Nincada is really nice because Nincada comes with a 10 weight to start the game, which means you're not going to get him on the field, you know, until you've already moved 5 or 6 Pokemon. So that's going to be more of a late entry piece when you could have a Pokemon on the bench already, having gone to the PC and come out, something of that nature. For the late game, it's nice, and it goes from being a 1 MP at Nincada all the way up to a 3 MP, which is really nice. I like it when they go from lower MPs to higher MPs, not so much when they start at 3 and as they get stronger, they go down. I'd kind of rather have something that gets faster. I like the option. So there. Interesting and nice little Pokemon that is a bug type and a flying type. So he will be covered by tropical energy. And this Pokemon could be, this evolution chain could be viable. And we will definitely work in some decks with these 2 Pokemon in particular. Let's go ahead and check out Nincada real quick, and then we will move into these others. We will go to the material. I guess there was a better way to get to this, but I can't remember where Nincada is. Yeah. Okay. He's a bug ground, so he will also be covered by the tropical energy plate. This Pokemon is weight 10 at the start. When this Pokemon faints in battle, you can evolve it without sending it to the PC. If you do, move one of the Pokemon in the PC to the bench. Very similar to Magikarp, where if he gets knocked out, he can evolve. So that's going to make an easy evolution. And got a large miss, 24, doesn't really matter. Scratch 20, again, doesn't really matter. He can beat Greninja if he's chain leveled. Whoops, that's about it. A 2-star dig, which is 36 wheel. That's a nice size. And if you remember, dig allows you consecutive adjoining Pokemon. He can slide all the way underneath. I actually was running in League, or not League, in a room match. I was running this Pokemon, testing him out. And I had him on my inner right corner of my board, and my opponent attacked him. I landed dig. He had a Pokemon behind his attacking Pokemon, which I believe was Genesect, if I'm not mistaken. So I was able to move all the way to his right entry point. On the next turn, he brought out Heatran, attacked, got the miss. I got the 20, which is super fortunate. Like, don't get me wrong. This is 1 in 48 odds of happening. But nonetheless, attacked with Heatran. He landed miss. I landed the scratch 20, triggered my evolution, and I walked to his goal because I now had 3 MP. Very interesting dynamic there that completely changed the tempo and swung the game 180 degrees into my favor. The wait 10 is not that bad. It sounds like a lot, but if you run the dragons, you're waiting 9. This is 1 extra turn. And like I said, bringing him out in the late game is better anyways. Definitely a niche Pokemon who, because it's covered by tropical energy, I think could have a role in a deck if you're looking for kind of some trickery, things of that nature, because it's hard to attack into him just because the dig, if the Pokemon are lined up, he can move freely around the board, set up some surround kills. A lot of interesting dynamics that are going on here with this pair. Definitely worth looking into if you have the evolution. I personally wouldn't run either one of these solo. I would run them as a pair. I think they would work best that way. And there's interesting other things you can do where if you decide to, if Nincada gets knocked out and you decide, I don't want to trigger the evolution, one of the Pokemon in your PC to the bench, which isn't a big deal if there's already 2, I don't think. Or maybe they both. Maybe that would be like Ho-Oh and it would clear out your PC. In fact, I think that's what it does. Now that I'm thinking about it. If you get knocked out and you already have 2 Pokemon in the PC, one's going to get kicked out, you're going to go to the PC, and then I think the other one gets kicked out as well. So it sounds like it might be the Ho-Oh dynamic of a recycle. Definitely could see use in this, and definitely worth trying out. Let's go back and see. Let's look at Joltik. A bug electric, so also going to be covered by tropical energy. When this Pokemon is on the field, your other Pokemon deal +1 damage. He has a built-in sea level for everybody on your team that's on the field. And I don't have to tell you how valuable those sea levels are, especially with the Swords of Justice that are all 101, a lot of Zapdos, a lot of Ho-Ohs. I can't remember what else has 100 damage, but there's a lot of those where they're 101, the 100, the 101s, the 102s. There's a lot of Pokemon right now in that area. You've got your runners that are doing the 40s, the 50s, those numbers. Sceptile and Mew at the 30, the 31. If all of a sudden you have a 32, you can turn a lot of losses into wins, or a lot of losses into ties, or a lot of ties into wins. Definitely a very interesting passive on Joltik. 8 dodge, leaf life 30, a chain level on him. And you know what? I don't even know if I believe he probably gets the buff. So his 30, I believe, is actually 31. Similar to how Manaphy is 20, but because Manaphy's on the field and it's a water type, he's actually 40. I believe this is the same dynamic there. So I believe he's actually 31. I don't know that for a fact though, but I believe so. Electric Thread. The battle opponent becomes paralyzed. The battle opponent gains weight 3. Again, a lot of dynamics where Pokemon are starting to get weight. We just covered the previous Ninjask that could go through weight. Now we've got another Pokemon that creates weight. And if we look at the banner, it's Novi something. the big bird. The flying bat looking Noivern, who, if he lands his Hurricane, flying types gain weight 3. So we see a move towards really limiting mobility on your opponent with so many of the new Pokemon having things to do with weight. going back, we will just jump into the shop. And I do have one booster ticket. I pulled it in my dailies today, so I will open that for you. Okay, so we had our Joltik, who's going to evolve into the Galvantula, like a tarantula, Galvantula. The opponent's Pokemon that have passed over this Pokemon by using Fly Away, Fly, or Soar become paralyzed. Okay, very good for a little electric deck, a little paralyzed deck, if you will. 8 dodge, Electro Ball for 60. If the battle opponent is paralyzed, it deals 2 times the damage. That's going to be 120. If you pull it out of the evolution, it's going to be 140. Also becoming pretty common numbers. Electric Thread, again, we have weight. Lots to like here, especially if you want to run an electric deck, a paralyzed deck. Very nice to have some extra Pokemon added to the viable Pokemon, the available Pokemon for that. And then I'm going to skip Heatmore and Durant for right now because I want to touch on one that, hey, I've made some calls. I've gone out on limbs and made some calls on my channel as far as what I thought would be next. I still think I haven't given up on Primal Rage. It hasn't taken off like I thought, but I'm not giving up on it yet. Because with the resurgence of the Deoxys, with the steel plates, with the tropical energy, with the dark energy, and we are going to get more dark Pokemon, I think eventually there are going to be so many energy plates that the Primal Rage is it's going to be a thing. It's just going to take a little bit longer to get there. Another call that I made is I said Genesect was reborn, and I think he is. We'll get into it. I think the rebirth happened. We'll get into it a little bit more when we start looking at steel types for a possible steel gym. Just know that it is possible for Genesect to be dropping 140 damage and eliminating your Moltres, your Zapdos, your Articuno, any of your flying types. And at 140 damage, off the top of my head, I can't name a single flying type that can compete with that and not get eliminated. That is a very scary proposition. And it happened to me last night during that same opponent in that room match that I was talking about. And in fact, it was that same game because the reason why I had the Pokemon, and I've gone blank on his name now, but the reason why I had him up against Genesect because Genesect had just eliminated my Zapdos. That's scary. Anytime you get Pokemon eliminated from the duel, it puts you at a huge disadvantage. It's very scary. But I'm not always right. And when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. And what I was wrong about is this little fella right here. Noibat. Noibat evolves into Noivern, which wouldn't it be Novibat? Noibat and Noivern. How about that? Noibat and Noivern. Somebody on in fact it was Ubercat on the Discord, said, let me show you Noibat. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, I'm not sold on this. Evolutions are pretty hard to trigger. But if you'll remember from early in my channel when I talked about the easy evolutions are the ones that evolve, the easier evolutions are the ones that evolve by displacement purples. Well, Whirlwind is a displacement purple. If you land on Whirlwind, there's about a 25% chance of that happening. The battle opponent is moved to the bench and gains weight. That triggers your evolution. All of a sudden now, your Noivern is doing a 110 Boom Bust and a 60 Dragon Pulse, whereas before it was 150. And his Hurricane becomes a 3-star really difficult to beat 3-star purples unless you have evolution chains or gold. My opponent ran this against me, or Ubercat ran it against me. I made a really bad play and didn't surround him like 3 plays in a row when I easily could have by pulling a Pokemon off the bench, but that's neither here nor there. And he ended up triggering the evolution off of my runner, maybe. And then I had my 3 legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, around this Pokemon. And he spun the Hurricane 2 or 3 times, and it gave him weight 3 each. I had 2 Pokemon in the PC, which means I only had 1 Pokemon to move around. That's very limiting when your options are, I can only move 1 Pokemon. So I think I was wrong on that. And then to be able to drop 110 damage it's at the higher end of the spectrum as far as serviceable Pokemon. So I think I was wrong about this evolution. I'm actually running, as you can see, I leveled him up to 5. And then Noivern I leveled up to 4. I think this is an evolution that you can run and run successfully, and it's flying, so it's covered by tropical energy. So I think I was wrong on him in my initial assessment, and I reserve the right to go back in judgment and say, no, I was right. I wasted materials bumping him up to 5. But for now, I think this is another viable evolution that you can run in your deck. So having said all that, and because I've run into so many Deoxys decks, I'm not going to take this deck into league play. But I do want to show off, I don't know, do I want to do this deck or not? We're just going to show it off. It was a fun deck. And let's just, no. Here's what we're going to do. First things first, we're going to open this single booster ticket. And then we'll jump into a game. Uncommon, sweet, just what I wanted. Not really, but that's all I get out of these, basically. Rylu, okay. All right, so let's get out of there. We're going to jump into a room match. And then I'm going to edit the video here just in case I get consecutive or several people who come in and just forfeit. So when the edit happens, it'll be because a game is actually going to play. Just a little forewarning in case it gets choppy right through here. And it looks like J-Dog wants to roll with us. Oh, I was talking Yveltal. I was talking earlier about Pokemon that do 100 damage. And Yveltal is one of those with the base of 100 damage. We can add him to the list. And so Shuppet is going to come out. We are just going to go take our goal. No big deal there. We've got plenty of runners. The reason Zapdos is in this deck is strictly for power. 30, 50s. Okay. So I don't really think this opponent is taking this match seriously at all. Because nobody would have done that. I'm going to get the Joltik out onto the field. Hopefully he attacks, so I can see if he goes up to 31 when attacked. And we get the electric thread. Nice. And if you'll remember, Jolteon can move through electric types. So now we're going to do this. And unfortunately, I don't have a hurdle jump. A hurdle jump would have been great because that would have been a free surround kill over the Moltres. Articuno comes out, attacks. We get the Thunder Jolt. which is going to trigger the paralysis. So I'm going to max revive him. And because Jolteon can pass through paralyzed Pokemon, I'm going to just go right back here. And we can't continue in that line, so we will move forward. Zygarde, that's really bad for our opponent because I only have 2 Pokemon who do purple, and they are sizable purples, but only 2 Pokemon that have purple segments. That's not really a good matchup for him. Okay, so if you'll notice, my Zapdos only has 50. He hasn't been C-leveled in the 50, but I won that matchup because Joltik was on the field and gave him the +1 chain level. We are going to go ahead and just immediately threaten his goal. I guess he'll bring Palkia out, maybe. I guess he could move that over, which is fine with me because that's going to give me the surround sound. I do that all the time. The surround kill. Moltres. He can't bring Palkia out. Articuno has a slim chance to knock me out here. Not amused. It's the first unfortunate spin we've gotten in this game, though. Really not amused by that. And Electabuzz, when he's next to an enemy, an electric type Pokemon, I get +10 damage. So I'm actually going to slide him back. So I'm going to do 61 and 42 damage, which is decent. And we're going to slide him up. Again, still connected to the electric type Jolteon. And the reason why, if you don't know the reason why Dragonair is in here, is because of his magnetic storm. We will just slide over here. I do have gold blocks, so I really didn't even need to do that. Magnetic storm would be great. Miss is not so much. The miss is not so much great. I don't really want to use my double chance. I don't really have any good plays here. We could just go for the... We're just going to go for the paralysis here. If we get knocked out. Weren't able to land the white attack. And it actually wasn't that terrible of a matchup because we have gold and he's so much purple. It wasn't a horrendous attack. And the fact that we have Zapdos waiting to come back out. And the electric deck lacks a lot of power, quite honestly. So you really have to be good with your movements and your placements. And I'm not always the best tactical player, as you guys know. But I sure do try hard. Figures. When it would have won me the game, he knocked my guy out. But when it doesn't really matter much, no such luck. Now, what are we going to do here? I think we're going to bring Joltik out. Good chance to get some paralysis going on here. J-Dog. No, we're just going to go for this. Why not, right? Flame charge. That's going to hurt. We're going to get burned. Although, we're only going to lose our dodge, and I think it's only 8. Not the worst thing in the world that could happen. We're still going to attack him. Yeah, just our dodge. Perfect. We're actually going to have to knock something out, though. Maybe we can get Zygarde to miss. Or we're just going to electrocute everybody on the field. Let's go try to electrocute Palkia. What do you say? We don't really have the strength. We're going to need to like fend him off for a minute anyways. Otherwise, we're going to be in some trouble here. Okay. Let's go over here. The good news with Dragonair on the field now. Nice. Nice. Is, unless he rolls his miss, like, if he gets attacked and gets knocked out, but he rolls his white, which is a huge slice, then we're good, because it'll take the opponent out as well. And we get the nice surround there. And we have a Jolteon coming off the bench. I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to do the scoop up so that I remove the status effect on him. And bring him out. Seemed like a good play, I don't know. And we will continue to press forward. I don't know what his Shuppet is going to do. Like nothing, I guess. So now, perfect. And this is working out really nicely. Everybody is being electrocuted, which will, if I ever get my other Jolteon out, all of a sudden I'll be able to run around freely. Ooh, that's not good. We are going to get iced. So we're going to come over here. Guess I could have attacked again. But we'll come over here in case he wants to ice. He doesn't. We're actually going to double chance this because I definitely don't want both my defenders getting iced. So hopefully either we knock him out or that's the end of that. Or I was looking for either knocking him out or us getting knocked out. No. Us getting knocked out by landing the white in which case we both would have gone back to the bench. And I don't know if that would have reset his ice charge or not. So now he needs to make a decision. I guess this will just bounce Yveltal back and forth on the back line for a minute. But he's going to lose his second entry point. Okay. Not a bad decision, although he does have a lot of miss there. That did not work out for Palkia. We will seal off the second entry point. Zygarde is his only option, who is also paralyzed. And is going to remain as such. That's really interesting what they did Dragonair. Like, why would he become static? No, beautiful, beautiful. I don't know. Nope. So now, his only option is move Yveltal right there or forfeit. Okay, he wants to go for the attack. That was a scary roll. That's not what we wanted, actually. Because now Yveltal can top our Zapdos. So that's not what we wanted at all. That's actually maybe the worst case scenario. Perfect. But it's not going to come into play here today. We did not get the Joltik evolution, but he did come in very handy. We won at least one match because of the bumped up chain level, and he, in a critical time when I was on the defensive, he went and paralyzed half of, and in fact, I'm just going to use this as the screenshot. I'm going to screenshot this for the video, but you already know that. So there. He did come up with some very handy paralysis, which ended up making Palkia less, I believe, and definitely Moltres and Zygarde as well. I believe he kind of, the misses that ended up winning the game for us and completely giving us control were part of this little Pokemon's Joltik's doing. So nice showing. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? Even without the evolution, he was able to come through and do some work in a kind of a unique deck against a deck that is not that uncommon from what you might see in League play. Also, let me know, have you seen more Deoxys in the last day and into today? Let me know in the comments below. I honestly don't know if we're going to make it to live stream today. My schedule's a little hectic in the afternoon. But follow me on Twitter. I'll make the announcement for sure. And if I don't have it today, I apologize. But sometimes things are out of your control. I'm going to leave you there. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you're enjoying this new booster, the new banner packs. And until next time.